Okay, good.
Good evening and welcome to a live podcast with Bob Pace, Daniel Watt, and Faye Nanny. Am I pronouncing that right, Faye?
Yeah, you got it.
All right. So we got Faye is from Richmond, Kentucky. Danielle is from Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
What city again?
Ackworth.
What
But
is
you can take Ackworth, Georgia. Ackworth.
Ackworth?
Yeah, it's Ackworth. Acworth.
Oh, Ackworth. Gotcha.
Yes. There you
And
go.
I'm
Yep.
Bob,
I'm sorry.
and I'm
Okay,
from
sorry.
California at a small little town called Surf USA. That's the
But
nickname.
that's
Let you
gonna be
work on that
nice.
one there. Anyway, I'm right next door to Donald Trump, Capitol Hill in Newport Beach. Anyway,
Really? Wow.
we are three people that are heavily involved in CPS, and we're here to help rescue you people, to help make you feel better. We are good parents. We have two mothers and a father here. We all have children that we care a lot about, and we all have terrible experiences. Our life has been hard, all kinds of woes. I don't think any one of us, you know, um, we here to help you because you're in a situation where if you don't realize it by now, that by the time you get through with CPS, they would have pretty much ruined your life. They ruined my
Right.
life. They keep ruining my life. They do the same thing with
You're
Daniel.
exhausted.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
It's
anyway, I'd like
really
to do a little bit of the housekeeping rules here. We got let me see. I got a private comment from.
it's probably
Uh,
grace.
okay, great. All right. So I want to go over a housekeeping routine, how you can interact with this podcast. One of the first ways you can do, and if I take these out of order, I'm sorry, but one of the first things or one of the three things you can do is you can call in live and talk with all three of us. You won't be on the camera, but you'll be on the phone. And 626-698-0990. And that's the number you call to speak on my phone, which is turned on and connected. Check that out. And you can talk about your case instead of trying to text it. Now, if you, um, you know, um, want to do a comment by texting, all you have to do is type your CPS question. It can be a comment or question about you or somebody else, but something related to CPS. And all you need to do is show them your name, city, state, or country, and be complete with your CPS case. Now, you probably hear the word country. Yes, we have gotten people. Danielle will testify that I've gotten people from other
All
countries.
over.
And
Mm-hmm.
so we've gotten so far Australia, Canada, United Kingdom, Ghana in South America,
Mm-hmm.
and then we got Mexico, and then we got Mozambique, I should say, Mozambique in Africa, and they were recently in the news, by the way, with a CPS matter. And then we've had Denmark, a Scandinavian country, and just the
Mm-hmm.
other day, at a new country, um, Libya. Libya, the
Mm-hmm.
Lawrence Thrown area, Libya, had a CPS issue. And I've heard through the news that ISA, the terrorist group, is having CPS issues and problems.
Yep.
So it's worldwide, it's in the US. And looks like we lost Danielle for a second, but she'll be back. And so we love to have your comments. We love to help you out. And Faye worked so hard this morning to try to help out this lady that we had um, on this morning. Ebony, I hope that she comes back on so we can
Me
help her out
too.
with her case. Ebony was, you see, she was from Detroit, Michigan, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so she was from Detroit, Michigan, and her parents were taking her children, and the grandfather of one of the child had one and the mother had the other. I guess her parents don't live together or something, and she was worried that she'd lose custody or something. They've already taken her custody, but she wants to appeal that, or she's in the process of appealing it. But if any of y'all listening, we do try. We're not attorneys, but we're people with good common sense. We know how to use the internet. We find a lot of answers because the internet will make you smart. It will save your life on CPS. I wish I had done it in my case. But we try to relate information that will help you with your case, because you're going to find this agency one of the worst agencies to deal with. They are, how can I say the right words? They don't care. All they care about is making money. It's a money thing that keeps CPS excited. Today, I just heard about a horrible story. We were talking about our pink ladies and their T-shirts about professional child kidnappers, and on the back, do you know where your children are at? Well, those cases of social workers, all 8 of them, of course, have fired. But we just heard today from heard from a lady, I think, on the show, that there was an advertisement by a social worker in Chicago, Illinois, that had put on an old ad from 1848. Now, CPS is divided into 3 parts. I don't know why they haven't done that way. It's from the 1600s, colonial days, and there was a case back then, to 1875. And then after the Indians were settled down, I guess, or they weren't settled down, but they were in putting on reservations. From 1875 to 1962 is the second chapter of CPS. And they did a lot of damage. In fact, they were after the Indian children all the time, because the Indian families were left helpless when they saw their children go by. And in 1978, we had the ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act, which I'll talk about later. But the next chapter, the third chapter, is from 62 to the present. And that's the one we're familiar with. That's the one we're fighting in there. So it is divided in there. So it's you can comment, you can make phone calls, and last but not least, if you want to be on the show as a guest, let me type in Danielle, and she's got the right picture up. Thank you, Danielle. And
it works.
Pink lady, the pink ladies.
Mm-hmm.
But the third part that you can interact with this podcast is you can be our guest. And we have a producer, a show producer, Grace, who would love to help you out, get on one of the 14 podcasts. I'm on 7 days a week, twice a day. I'm on at 10 in the morning and 7 o'clock at night for an hour. The only time that's different is on Sunday. I'm on at 8 o'clock in the morning, Sunday only, 8 o'clock in the morning. And there may be changes, but I'll let you know in advance. But all you do is email Grace at vincentwdavis.com. That's Grace at vincentwdavis.com. And she'll gladly put you on the show. We've had guests the last couple of nights. We had Darlene from Georgia.
Hi, Ebony.
And we had somebody from Miami.
See Ebony?
Ebony.
Hello, Ebony.
Oh, hi,
Ebony's
Ebony.
Uh-huh.
She showed up good. Ebony wants to finish the work with her because Faye and Ebony, I want you to hear this. Faye, Danielle have been working hard to try to help you out with your issue. Ebony's from Detroit, Michigan, and Faye.
So you're the same time as Georgia?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you want to tell her what you guys have wanted to come up with or the conclusion, maybe that can help her.
Does she want to call in?
Yeah. Ebony, do you want to call in again? Okay. She's going to call in again. Right.
Okay.
I'll wait for her to call in.
I guess this connection sounds better on this tablet. It's just a smaller screen to get used to. You know?
And do you have the number turned on, Bob?
Yeah, that's what I'm checking right now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on there. Yeah. She said
Okay.
not right now. She's a little sleepy. So you want to
Oh.
talk over the chat, Ebony?
Or maybe we
Because
can
Faye
talk a little
wanted
bit
to.
later in the show, and we can continue on with our rules or any topic you ladies like to talk about. We can talk about.
Well, we can talk about what Ebony, what Faye wanted to discuss with her, like to clarify earlier if we need, if we
Well,
could
she
do
says
that.
she's too sleepy right now. Ebony, if
About calling in.
well, yeah, but
maybe.
maybe about talking. Ebony, do you want to hear what Faye has come up with?
She said yes, talk in the chat. She said she has the number, but yes, she's more than happy to talk in the chat. Yeah.
Okay.
Ahead,
So she can hear me. She can hear me, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll turn my mic off.
Okay. So, in regards to with the placement of her kids being with her mother and the stepdad, which would be considered relative placement. Honestly, that's better if they can't go back with you, per se, if the appeal don't work. That's better for them to be there than to be in the system with strangers, that are wanting to adopt your kids. Because if they don't stay with them and you lose your appeal, then it's going to make it almost, near impossible for you to ever get your kids back if they're in a stranger's house in an adoptive placement. But if they stay with your mom and the stepdad and you lose your appeal, which means you lose your rights in the state that you're in, as long as they're with family members, then you can reinstate your parental rights by going back in front of the court and explaining that the circumstances surrounding, even if there was no reason, you can explain that the situation has been remedied and that you're stable, that you have the stability to take care of the kids and keep them safe. And a judge can reinstate your parental rights, because in the state of Michigan, it allows for that. But only that can happen if your children are in a relative placement.
Let her digest that a little bit.
We researched that a little bit today and discussed it after the podcast. Ebony, just to clarify, they did before she spoke with you about this.
See, I went through this myself. That's also how I know about it.
Yeah, because we were just wanting to make sure that her state was one of those states, right? That's what we had.
Yeah.
We researched.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I was pretty sure Michigan was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was pretty sure Michigan was, but I just couldn't remember. That's why I wanted to look it up before I said anything. There's only, I think, like 8 states that allow for parental rights to be reinstated once they've been terminated.
Right.
Huh. Is California one of them?
I don't have them memorized. You'd have to look.
California was one. Yeah. I didn't see that on the list of states, but I don't know for sure.
I know Kentucky is not one of them.
I know Georgia is one, and Michigan so far, and then there's Florida. You can do that too. But in certain states too, there's also different statutes, like different protocols with different circumstances.
Did she respond to any of that yet?
No, not yet. Ebony, you still with us?
Hopefully she didn't fall asleep.
No, she might be typing too. It could take a minute to type. But she said yes. Yes, she heard you. Yes, she heard you. She said yes.
Also, the other thing is that, the more ideal situation would be if her parents could just do a legal guardianship, a permanent legal guardianship, opposed to adoption. That would be more ideal. But if the cabinet won't allow that, and then, the adoption goes through, they're still going to be better off where they're at as opposed to being in a foster adoptive placement. But it would be nice if her parents could just do a legal, permanent legal guardianship opposed to adoption. But the reason that
wouldn't her parents need to bring that up to the cabinet? Maybe so maybe she needs to know how to bring it up to them. Like her parents didn't know how to bring it up to the CPS. Maybe we can explain that too to better.
But the reason the cabinet's pushing for the adoption is, of course, they're going to get adoption bonuses for adopting children to the grandparents.
She said, "I was told they are too young for guardian. No, I disagree with her." But I don't know what that means. What, Ebony? What you disagree with?
Are the grandparents, is your mother and your stepfather too old as a guardian? I mean, too young? No. I think because the children are too young, maybe they can't. I don't think that's the case. And when you say disagree with her, which her you're talking about? The social worker, Faye, or Danielle?
I mean, there's no guarantee that the appeal will be won either, so I know if it was me, I would rather my kids be in a relative placement than be in a foster adoptive home.
Yes, you're right.
Because it'd be much easier to get them back from a relative than it would be a foster adopter.
Mm-hmm. Well, she's coming up. Let's see. I was told they're too young for. Okay. Well, she's further typing here. I would like to remind everybody that the attorney that produces this podcast is Vincent W. Davis. It's his law firm, Vincent W. Davis Associates. And here comes somebody. 508 is area code. Okay. Hello, welcome. You're on the live on Fighting CPS.
Hello, how are you, sir?
Pretty good. And who am I speaking to?
You're speaking with Wendell. I'm from Massachusetts.
You're Wendell from Massachusetts. Well, welcome, Wendell. What can we do for you?
Oh boy, do I have a DCF story for your show.
Okay. Can you Faye and Danielle, can you hear Wendell?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Wendell, go ahead and start from the beginning.
Start from the beginning. Well, I am a veteran of U.S. Army, and my wife is also a licensed teacher here in Massachusetts. We've been married been together for quite some time, almost 20, better part of 20 years. We moved into our home here in Massachusetts back in 2010, and in 2011, my wife, on her own, I joined her later as a partner, but she opened her own daycare / preschool out of our home, and it was a beautiful program. It was unique.
What kind of a program was it, Wendell? You got to speak up a little bit louder. You're drifting off. Go ahead and try again.
Hello?
Yeah, that's better. What kind of program was it, Wendell?
It was a preschool / pre-kindergarten program, but we integrated it more because we live in the country, so we integrated farming into our educational program, so children could learn not only reading, writing, arithmetic. Because my wife's a teacher, they also learned how to do agriculture, and they learned all of this before kindergarten. And
well, that's awesome.
Kind program. We ran it for several years, people wanted to enroll their children into our program, and it was great. We were trying to expand. We were getting bigger, and then one day in 2016, something happened at my house. The police ended up being called. They came to my house, and here in the state of Massachusetts, whenever the police come to your home, no matter what it is, if there are children there, they are required to file a 51 alpha report to DCF, and which ultimately results in an investigator being sent out to your house.
Yeah, I will tell all the listeners out there that anybody who is a professional that is required by their law to report suspected abuse or neglect, they have to call it in. So you're right. You're right.
But here they file them no matter what the call is. It could be a cat in a tree, and they file a 51 alpha just because
Really?
children.
Wow.
Yeah, just because children are present and the police are called, they just to cover their own butts, they file 51 alpha just to send DCF investigator out to the house.
Okay.
And back in 2000, we were so dumb and so naive that we welcomed him. We welcomed the investigator in. He came in. He saw that there's no protective issues in the home. There's nothing going on. Our home was very well kept. No arrests, no violence, no substance abuse, nothing. And he was going to leave without substantiating the claim, without substantiating the allegations. But dumb us, we thought, well, maybe they could put us in touch with some programs for the children, extracurricular stuff, because we heard some things about some of our clients that came here because they were involved with DCF that they had these programs for children. So we were dumb. So he left and he put us in for services, and lo and behold, not too much longer later, an actual social worker showed up to the house. And this guy, at first seemed cool. He had this little mohawk and a tattoo on the side of his head, and I thought he was a happening guy. And he pretended like he was like my friend.
Yep.
And like our friend, and he was very friendly, and he was just coming to our house like every week, like.
He's a spider spinning a web around you. He's a spider. He's a spider spinning a web around you.
Yeah. So, but he kept coming here week after week after week, and this was going on for months. And finally, over a year later, we had to renew our license to run our business. And on the questionnaire that we had to go through on our license renewal was a question whether we had any open DCF cases, and yes, we did. So my wife sent this man my wife is very diligent, very, very diligent. She's a very smart lady, very diligent, and she does her homework, and she looked into their policies and their rules, and she could not answer the questions on our license renewal pertaining to DCF, and she sent him an email to his office asking him about our case and why it's still open. And it was supposed to be closed within 45 days of him coming. But we're going on a year now that he was coming to our house, and she called him out like, hey, this was supposed to be closed like 45 days after your initial visit. What's the deal here? I need to answer these questions to renew our license. And I don't know what happened. I don't know what he said, but this man called back screaming on our answering machine about how we're putting it all on him and we're blaming him, and what it had nothing to do with it. He was very vitriolic towards us. So jumping ahead, we were able to get an interim renewal after this, but this all occurred a year later in the late spring, early summer of 2017, and we were able to get an interim license renewal, and then in the fall, I had some health issues where I almost died, and then one of my children. By the way, we've been we have 4 children, all boys, very, very good kids. 2 of them are now grown up. 2 of them are still school age. One of them's going to high school next year. The other one's in middle school. But anyways, my other one, he was going into first grade, but he had developed an illness and developed a tic disorder, which the school that we were sending him to could not accommodate his needs. So, given that we ran a school program, we decided to pull him out of the public school and just homeschool our kids. Like, why not? We run a school program here. My wife's a teacher. She's more than qualified to do it. So we did that. But the problem was that in our state, we have to submit a letter of intent to homeschool to the school board and then get approval from the school board to homeschool our children. And she had submitted our letter of intent to homeschool, but she could not follow through with the approval process because of the illnesses and everything that was going on in our family at the time. But we were already in understanding with the school. As long as we submitted the letter of intent and our son had I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart. He had a documented medical issue which made him exempt from the attendance laws. It allowed us to keep him home to homeschool regardless. And what happened was that this social worker became so incensed that he just kept showing up at our house like every other day, to the point where he kept bugging my wife about getting the homeschool approval for him. And she was like, "Yeah, I'm working on it. My husband's very ill. My son is ill. I've been having to do everything by myself, so I haven't had time to follow through on that process. But the school knows our intent to homeschool. We've been approved to homeschool our children in the past, so we're in a good working relationship with the superintendent of schools. They understand. But this guy threatened her. You better. He's told her, you better hurry up and get that taken care of, or else the school's going to file a 51 alpha report for your son being truant. And if the school doesn't do it, I'm going to do it. And if that happens," and he told her this a week before Thanksgiving, right as he's delivering a basket with we didn't even need, by the way. It was a basket with a turkey and the trimmings for Thanksgiving. They bring you gifts. They like to bring gifts sometimes. They brought a basket with all this Thanksgiving stuff for the family, and hands her the basket. His friends are. He's like, "If you don't do this, and I do this, and I file this report, your whole life's going to come unraveled." And she was like, "Okay." And I was very incensed by this. But lo and behold, this son of a gun, this freaking guy, convinced the school to mark my son absent from the first day of school all the way up to that point, to the point where he was truant. And then they filed a 51 alpha report to DCF, a brand new report to open a brand new case. And then another investigator came along, and she came to the house, and she just kept saying, "Well, did you get your homeschool approval letter? Did you get your homeschool approval letter?" Like, "No, we didn't, but we haven't been able to, but we're going to at the next school board meeting." Well, and it doesn't matter because he's exempt, and she's trying to show the investigator the evidence, the exculpatory evidence to show that we're not doing anything wrong, and she refused to see it. So she, at that point, and she was asking very invasive questions while we're trying to operate a business and we have clients' children here. She's running this investigation. She leaves the house, and then she files a 51B, which substantiates the allegations. Which is pretty much saying the allegations are pretty much true, knowing very well that the nature of our business, if we had a 51B report from DCF, it would immediately close our business. And which happened, by the way. That happened. We were licensed through the EEC, and they came soon after this and told us to cease and desist. They shut down our program. That was our only source of income, by the way. Only source of income. They shut us down. They made us call all our clients' parents and send them all home. And then
Okay, can we stop right there now? It's very important. First of all, this is your own personal case. What does it have to do with your business? What does your school have to do with the CPS system there? You call it DCF, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What did they have to do with your business, DCF? What was their allegation?
Because in the child care business, here in Massachusetts, the child care business, if you have a DCF case, you have two tiers of report. You have the initial 51A report. That's someone's accusing you of someone submitting allegations of abuse and neglect, and then after the investigator comes, they come in, they do their interrogations and check out your home and stuff. They can either, they can say yes, they can substantiate those allegations by then submitting a 51B.
Did they have a court order at any time, a warrant that showed them able to come in your home or shut down? I mean, do they have a court order?
No, they just came and knocked.
Yeah, that's the problem that most people, and not offense to you, I didn't know about it either with my CPS case. For all you listeners out there, the first, my rule number 3 is you don't talk to social workers or police. And also you don't let them in your home. You don't let them interfere with your life unless they have a court order, because they are not supposed to do that. They do that because you don't know the law.
Yeah.
And if you had an attorney, the attorney would address it. And sometimes I tell people, pretend you have an attorney and tell them you want to speak to your attorney first before you talk to them any further. You'd be polite to them, but you say you need to speak to your attorney first, and you may not have one, but that will give you some time to get one.
Also in my state, like in Kentucky, I don't know about other states, but in mine, CPS is who you get your license through for a state-ran daycare / preschool.
Really?
No.
Mm-hmm.
No, in this state they license through the what's called the early education.
It's through the education system. I thought it's through the education system.
Yeah, some states it's through CPS.
They're different from CPS here.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just the problem with when you have
Hey, Natalia says hi.
like independent programs, your license gets forfeit or gets defunct if you get a 51B, or you can't operate if you get a 51B. That's just the law here in the state. And I believe this gentleman knew that. He knew what a 51B would do to our program. I think he was retaliating against us because my wife called, because he was doing not good things. Like he never gave us when we first got involved a year or so before, he never gave us an action plan. He never gave us any paperwork. They were required to fill out these FP&P reports for each individual in the family, and I had 6 people in my family, and they were like really thick. He wanted us to fill those out. He was supposed to fill those out. He was trying to get us to fill those out on our own, and we were just like, we don't have time for this. We have a business to run. We can't be doing this. But he was very, very slacking in his job, and my wife called him out on that in an email, and I think they might have found some bad attention to him in the office, and he was trying to blame us for getting in trouble. And I think he retaliated against us. But it gets juicier because my battle's been going on for 7 years. So this happened. They filed the 51B, which would cause the EEC to come immediately shut us down. We could not operate. We could not earn money. My family fell into destitution. My mortgage went into arrears. I was taking odd jobs, whatever I could do, for over a year until I could find gainful employment again. We're still not recovered from it.
Go check private chat.
And then fast forward now to this
Danielle,
December.
can you see your messenger?
We're on the recovery, and something
I just sent you something. Look at it.
Again, once again, no abuse. Nobody is arrested. No substance abuse. It's just they came out. They checked it out. There's nothing to report, but the police have to file a 51A to DCF anytime there's children in a home, anytime they go there, no matter what. They just do that to cover their own butts. So DCF comes out again. And this time we withdrew all our kids from school. We continued to home. From that point on, we pulled all our kids from public school. We homeschool. My wife's a teacher. She's probably the best teacher ever, by the way. These people came around in December, and once again, they're pressuring us about our homeschool approval letter. We were behind on that again, but it's just a bureaucratic issue. And you're like, yeah, okay, we'll square that away. But they kept pushing it. A month later, they kept pushing it. But this time, I was wiser. I would not let them in my house. I would not let them. If I knew they were coming, I would meet them halfway down the driveway.
Good.
And I would say, no, you can't come in my house. No, you cannot. She's like, but I need to check to see that the children are. I was like, okay, this is what I'll do for you. I will let the children come to the window and wave hello to you. You can wave hello to them. Will that be good enough? And she said, yes. I was like, okay. So we did that for several weeks to January. We didn't get we still didn't get our approval letter yet, but we were in the process of doing that. She was in the contact with the superintendent. And they kept pushing. This chick just kept pushing. Like, are you going to get that letter? Are you going to let me come in and interrogate talk to the children and see the home? I was like, no, it's still the same. If you need to see the children, I will bring them to the window and they will wave hello and you can wave hello and you can be on your way.
You should have done something better. You should have just said, yes, can I help you? And say yes, no answers. And they say, we need to do that. I said, I'm going to have to talk to my attorney. I'll get back to you.
Yep.
That's what you need to do. You need to discourage them and be polite and say yes, no answers. Don't even have wave to them because they're going to drag it on. They want to collect their $20,000 per child per month so they can keep their $50 billion business going. They work on bonuses and they work on money and they don't care. They alienate you and they traffic your children. But here's
the thing. Here's what brought them to my door this time around. You know what brought them to my door? Because we have a farm out here, and I have an animal control officer that's been after my wife's horse for years.
Oh boy!
She's been trespassing my property, and she's been trying to get me to surrender our horse to her, and we're just like this is a fight from many angles, many different bureaucrats.
Right.
And this animal control officer, I swear to God, she filed a 51A report complaining about the conditions of our property, and then that sent the investigator out. This is in December of 2023, just this past December. I was in Florida, by the way, when she came around, and filed the 51A report complaining about the conditions of the property. The investigator came out and said, well, I don't see anything here that's on these allegations. I was like, yeah, because you were lied to. But anyways, that opened the case, and then they started digging into my kid's medical history, and they started digging into my kid's educational history, and then they started pestering us about homeschooling. And then they kept coming around, and that's when I started saying, no, you can't come in. You can't come into my home. You can't interrogate my children. And then she kept coming back week after week, insisting, and then back in the beginning of April of this year, I came home from work on a Friday afternoon. It was a school vacation week, by the way. She demanded that I give them our homeschool approval paperwork and our kids' updated physical form, or else she's going to have to go get a court order to. This is what she said to me. She's going to have to go get a court order so that she can come into my home and interview the children. I was like, well, I'm not. I cannot. And she said, I'm going to have to do this on Monday. I was like, well, school's been out all week, and there's been no one available to get you this information. I'm not going to be able to get you what you want until at least Monday. And she's like, well, okay. okay. And she left. And this all occurs halfway up. I have a 300-foot long driveway, so this conversation occurred halfway up. I won't let them go onto my property.
Do you have an entrance to your farm? Do you have like a closed entrance?
No, it's open.
Yeah, if you had a closed entrance, you'd post no trespassing, and not even the police could come in there.
Yeah, I'm about to post no trespassing on my pools and stuff.
Yeah, the reason why I'm saying that is that the police and the CPS, or in your case DCF, will abuse your constitutional and your civil rights. They don't care. They don't care. And the more you antagonize and the more retaliation, they do retaliate. They threaten us parents. When I was going through my case that you'd never see your daughter again, and they convinced her 12-year-old daughter to divorce us, to change her name, to seal a birth certificate, and go into foster care. And at 12, she didn't know any difference. And she's 21 now, and we're trying to get back in touch with her, but still a long way. CPS doesn't care. They don't care about elderly, seniors, family, mothers, grandparents. They just don't care.
Nope, they don't. But here's the thing. That now, I came back from work on that Monday, and another social worker, another social worker, and 3 police officers were in my driveway on that afternoon, on Monday afternoon. And she says, "Well, I have to tell you, I have a court order here to move your children."
Okay. Did you look at it?
Yeah, I looked at it, and I told her straight to her face that you lied to me. You told me you were going to get a court order to come into my home.
What did the court order? Okay, first of all, did the court order get signed with a wet signature by a judge with the embossed stamp on it?
I don't remember.
Also, did the court order? It always gives specific things. They have to list you, your name. They have to list the kid's name. They have to list what the allegations are, and they got to list the address they're supposed to come to, and the date and time they're supposed to do it, and what they're supposed to do. Are they supposed to take your child, come into your home, or talk to you? That's what the court order has to say.
Oh, they had to order to remove the children.
That's all it said, is to remove the children, right?
Yeah, to remove the children.
They had no allegations on the court order. They didn't have the children's names.
Here's the thing. Their allegations weren't clear. See, they were flip-flopping all over the place.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If the warrant is not detailed enough or doesn't look legit, you can refuse the warrant.
No, we're too far along now. We've already been to court.
Right, I know. This is the problem and I did the same thing. If I knew what I knew now, I would never let them in my home. I'd never let them take in my children from school. They weren't in extreme danger. And on top of that, I would not be intimidated by them as I was at the time that they're coming out there, especially when they bring the police, and the police have their battle gear on, and they're very mean looking, very intimidating. So
I'm not intimidated by that. I'm a soldier, so I'm not intimidated by that at all.
Okay, good.
But they showed up here. First on Friday, she told me she was getting the order just to interview my children and see my home. Then on Monday, she said she has an order to remove my children. And I was very livid. I pointed to her. I was like, "You lied. You lied straight to my face."
Yeah.
And then we had to actually advocate for ourselves, because they were just going to take my children and put them in foster home. And my wife got on the phone with her brother, and her brother was like, "Oh, no.
They're supposed to put the next of kin, your kinship."
Yep. They did not inform us of that at all.
Did they inform you about the ICWA? Did they inform you about the ICWA law?
Yeah, they weren't going to do that at all.
No. Did they inform you about the ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare? Did they explain to you about that? You may not be Indian. See, they're supposed to explain it no matter if you're Indian or not, because they don't know for sure you're not a Native American Indian. And the Native American Indian children are put into tribes this day. In 1978, they passed a law that says every American Native Indian, whether they are registered or could be registered will be turned over to the tribe families.
I know.
So the tribe will take care of them and they will come back. Because right now, from 1875 to 1978, over 100 years, they were repeatedly taking Native American children and putting them up for sale or for adoption.
Yep. Yeah, that's bad. That's terrible.
And so if they didn't inform you about the ICWA, that's another thing that they're lying about. See, there are so many problems that they have exhibit, and that's why you need an attorney. I know you can't afford one, but there is attorneys you can find. We've been helping people find pro bono attorneys because per se, you don't want to fight it yourself because you're not a lawyer, even though we have a person that calls in for Brooklyn, New York. Yeah.
Right now, I'm a man on fire because they turned my whole life upside down.
Yeah.
I want to do everything I can. I want to sue them. I want to close my case. But I just can't. I feel like my hands are tied.
Well, unless you get yourself an attorney, they are. That's the number one problem that people have with CPS case. They hit up people that are struggling in life, that don't have support from families, that are homeless. Some are homeless. I have one guy in Alaska trying to get his kids back. His wife has died, and he's pitched a tent in the freezing cold of Alaska trying to get his children back. I know where the parents are coming from. I've been there myself. So I know I'm a fighter. You sound like you're a fighter, but I found out that I had to hire an attorney. That's why I got Mr. Davis. It cost me my home. I worked 40 years for, but I sold my home and I got the money and I hired him and he got back he got back two of my, well, I have 6 children, but 3 were old and grown up, but the other 3, they're young. He got back 2, and one was the one, my daughter, that was revenged by the social worker who's proven she lied on the court stand and she hated being embarrassed in front of her boss.
Yeah, but I've almost vowed, like, as soon as my children are grown, that I want to devote my life to, like, tearing them apart. Like,
well, I've been doing it for 14 years, and believe me, I've had social workers on the show, and I told them how it is, and they're just shocked. But I know there are social workers listening out there. I know a lot of people. I've talked to over 500 people to all the states. Now I'm talking to countries. It is terrible out there. CPS right there behind Danielle. If you see those, there's 8 pink ladies. Now, one may be pink. They're wearing T-shirts, and they say they're professional kidnappers. Professional kidnappers. And on the back, they said, "Do you know where your children are at?" And they paraded this out. They paraded this out in public, and they were fired. They're from Prescott, Arizona, in 2022. And just today, I heard from Chicago, Illinois, from a social worker. We have her name, who says that she's running an ad, an 1848 ad that said Negro babies for sale. Now that is wrong.
I would post that, but I don't want to put that on here, you know.
And
yeah, but I feel like I got a civil rights case because I feel like I've been discriminated against.
Oh, you have. And the problem being is that in order to fight them, your case has to be closed. You cannot fight them on your particular case. It's got to be closed.
I'm gonna close the case first.
You have to close the case, and then you want to file them in federal court, not state court. File them in federal court.
Yes.
And you need an attorney, a trial attorney.
I can't even wrap my head around it because there's even the court and judge seems like they're complicit. The judge showed her bias, like she really showed her bias, like in court.
Wow.
Yeah, she showed her bias in court. She treated my wife as if she's not a teacher. She said, "Oh no, we're not talking about what happened in the past." Like, it was really terrible. Really, really terrible. And then I feel like I was coerced into going into an agreement because they had custody of my children, and they said, "Well, you better sign this agreement, or else we're going to hold on to your children for a year." So we're sitting there with our children, not in our custody, just wanting them home, and we were willing to do anything to get our children home, like even agree to things that we didn't agree to. Just to get our kids home, and they knew it. I feel like they knew it.
Wow.
And we did. We went into an agreement that I do not agree with. I'm trying to resist as much as I can without looking like I'm resisting. They're demanding a whole bunch of things. I got people invading my house now. multiple times a week. They're trying to pry into all our personal business. They want to know everything about us, and it's like it's terrible. And they were able to do that just because they had my children as leverage.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, and I'm beside myself because even the judge and everybody in the courtroom agreed that there was no protective concerns in my home. I even told them, I was arguing with them when the day they took my children. I was like, how the hell did you get a court order to remove my children when there's no protective concerns in my home? The law says that you can only remove children when there's an immediate threat of danger to them, and there is none here. I've never even been arrested. I've never even been in handcuffs.
Yes, yes.
And my wife came up and she said, you lied. She's like, you lied to that judge to get this court order.
Yep. Can you hold on for a second? We want to answer. Ebony had another question, and we want to give her a chance. Sure. Just don't go anywhere. I'm just going to take a comment here. I want to welcome Natalia from West Hollywood. She's coming here to help it. Ebony, what is your question? What is your question? We want to help you. Go ahead. Ebony?
We know what she wanted to know, and they told me in the chat on Messenger, and I was gonna, but it's a lot. But Faye was on the phone, but we were gonna tell her over the thing. And that there's only a couple minutes left. How many minutes?
What phone?
She was just. Faye was on here with us. But there's only how many more minutes we have left?
She was texting questions, and we're trying to help her, but she was sleepy, and we want to help her.
No, I'm talking about Faye. She's wanting to hear what Faye said. That's what it was. Because she disagrees with the social worker. Remember we asked her that? If she had disagreed with us or the social, she disagrees with the social worker, and she wants to know.
Confused about that disagreement with the social worker, because I don't know what the social worker is trying to do. Is she trying to say what we're saying?
Because she said the kids were too young, or they're too young. I was told they are too young for guardian, and she disagrees with the social worker about that the kids are too young to have guardians.
We don't agree to that. We don't agree to that.
Right. And she was wanting to know. And Faye told me some good feedback. But Ebony was wanting to know. She don't agree with the social worker telling her that, and she said, please provide, there's a good positive feedback on maybe what to do or just our opinions on. And she's waiting around and that's what we were. Yeah. So I told Faye to come back on and see what she can say to her.
Faye is on. Go ahead, Faye. Go ahead and tell her what you want to tell her.
Well, in my opinion, what the social worker is doing is she's manipulating you and she's manipulating your parents. Because what she's doing is she's trying to force your parents to adopt the kids. If you don't win your appeal, then she's trying to make your parents adopt your kids. When they don't have to adopt them, they could just do permanent guardianship. Those children are not too young for a permanent guardianship. They put my son in permanent. They put my son in a permanent guardianship with my biological mom at literally 2 years old.
Hey, let me ask you a question. If they try to do, because I know my aunt with my son, if they are still on the guardianship, like if they want her parents to do the guardianship through them, will they still get the funding for those kids? Like that's where, because and like say in my situation,
yes, they will still get the adoption bonuses.
Okay, that's what I.
Yes.
Okay,
but
that's.
But the thing that I'm trying to point out is that the parents need to just try to see if they can do permanent guardianship as opposed to adoption. But probably CPS is going to fight them on that because they want the adoption bonuses off the children. So
that's.
I honestly don't know how that would go, if that would work in their favor or against them. But either or, if they adopt or if they do permanent guardianship, it's going to make it easier for her to be able to get custody back of her kids.
Right. And they're still with the family. They're still with family.
As long as they're still with family.
They're not in some weird.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, Ebony, I want to be really positive with you. We are very much trying to give you positive feedback. We care about you as a person, and you will get your kids. And we're not telling that we support the social worker. We're trying to say that you said that you've lost your parental rights for education, medical, and we're trying to tell you there's a way if you can get your parental rights in Michigan, they can still be gathered back to you.
Yes. Michigan allows for reinstatement of parental rights if they've been terminated.
Did you hear that, Ebony?
But the catch-22 to that is they have to be in a relative placement or still languishing in the foster system and not in an adoptive home. Those are the two reasons that you can reinstate your parental rights.
Okay. Okay, going back to you, Will. Is there something else more? I mean, Michael. I'm sorry, Michael. I apologize, Michael. Going back to you, because Window. I'm sorry, Window.
Window. Yeah.
We have about 3 minutes left of the show. It's 8:00. I started the show a few minutes late, so I got to end the show. But will you be willing to be on the show? I'm on again tomorrow morning, Sunday, 8:00 Pacific Standard Time. Yep. That's 11:00 Eastern Time for you guys who live on the East Coast. I'm on at 8:00 Sunday morning, and we can continue your conversation. Same thing goes to you for Ebony. It will be better for you because you're in Detroit, Michigan. You're 2 hours ahead of me, so it'll be 10:00 your time, Ebony. And the rest of you, Natalie, you're on the West Coast. You have no problem. Danielle, you're in Georgia. Faye's in Kentucky. I want to thank all you people for being on the show. I'm sorry.
Danielle, do you have Ebony's email?
She gave Ebony's email. She gave her email to Ebony. I don't know if she's heard from Ebony. And you guys can still talk after the show. So I'm going to
we'll talk after the show.
I want to thank you all for calling in. I want to thank Window for taking his time to share him and his wife and their school. There is a solution. It just takes time and so forth. And time is the hardest thing to worry about. Mine took 3 years to resolve.
Thanks for sharing your story.
I've been involved with them for 14 years, and 5 years they were trying to get my kids for 5 years on false allegations from lay people, my in-laws.
My case though is it's got a lot of precedents in it. I mean I think it's newsworthy of what they've done to me because we've done like nothing wrong, absolutely nothing.
Well, in Massachusetts, you can go to the newspaper or the TV stations. You can also go to your congresswoman or congressman. Your senators, your representatives, and they will listen too. They're supposed to listen.
Yep.
So
that's probably what we're gonna do. My wife will probably do that. My wife is already on the phone with the governor's office.
Right. You can go to the governor if you like. I've gone to the governor of my state on a license that I was trying to get, and the lieutenant governor gave me the license within 24 hours. I mean, if you want, you can go to President Biden, but I think he has too many things on his mind right now. They're worried about little cases like this. So,
yeah.
So anyway,
thank you very much.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Window, and I want to thank you all. And so this is Bob Pace signing off.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. God bless you guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.